What's going on, guys? I'm Brian, and today we're taking a look at this guy right here, the Corsair Harpoon RGB wireless. Let's check it out. Why pay full price for a Windows 10 key when you don't have to? Head on over to yourcdkey.com where you can pick up a Windows 10 Pro key for under $17. And if you use my discount code VT18 at checkout, you'll save yourself an additional 18% off your total order. The key will arrive within minutes, and all you'll need to do is go ahead and type activation in the search bar, click activation settings, and punch your key in. For more info, check out the description box below. Retailing for $49.99, the Harpoon RGB wireless brings a very compelling option to the budget gaming / like everyday use mouse market, especially once you take a look at everything Corsair went ahead and slammed into it. Now, it's not perfect, and I'll definitely be talking about its flaws here today, but I really think a lot of you guys will find it to be a great starter gaming or everyday use mouse. In the box, you're gonna find the basics, like absolute bare bone basics. You get the Harpoon RGB wireless, its related USB dongle and charging cable, and then you get a bunch of documentation, and that's it. Nice and simple. The entire mouse has a pretty nice feel to it while in hand, and I'm pretty happy with Corsair's design choices, including build quality for this mouse. The top shell of the mouse has a really nice matte finish, and then the sides and the scroll wheel have like this nice rubberized coating that will certainly help with your grip. The top like center button as well as the side buttons have a nice glossy finish, which provides a nice pop as well. And then you also have like your RGB that will be right here, and then you have a RGB profile indicator on your center button. And in general, I can't really understate how comfortable this mouse is to use. It did take me a few minutes to get used to it, but once I did, I found it very hard to move from this mouse back to my G502 Lightspeed that I typically use on my main setup that's behind me right here, which is actually taking quite a bit in my opinion, because I really like having all those extra programmable buttons. In fact, I literally utilize every single one of those buttons while I'm playing games like WoW. On the bottom of the mouse, there's going to be 4 things worth mentioning. To start with, we have 4 mouse feet, and one's going to be in each corner. And honestly, I like how these mouse feet feel, although I will say I'm not super picky in this aspect. I don't feel any drag when I'm using this mouse, and it glides really well on my mouse pad. Then you got a on and off switch that's going to double as your 2.4 gigahertz / Bluetooth switch. And I love these kind of switches. It just takes up one spot versus, taking up multiple spots on your mouse, which I personally like them a lot. It makes it really easy to switch between, the dongle, the USB dongle that you'll be using, and the 2.4 gigahertz connection. Next, we have the charging port, which takes their unique cable to charge it. Like the Razer Mamba Wireless and Logitech G502 Lightspeed, the opening is way too small to fit my retractable USB cable, and I absolutely 100% hate it. I really do not like when manufacturers do this. Please, if you want to have a cable that's super nice and flush, and it's a perfect kind of fit for this, just use a larger opening so that we can use different cables if we so choose. That's my only request to people who are actually developing and creating these mice. Finally, we have the USB dongle chamber, which is right here, and if you've watched any of my mouse reviews, you already know this is a must in my book for a wireless device. Not being able to travel without the fear of losing the USB dongle is a pain, and so having this on the mouse is very important to me. Even though this mouse does include Bluetooth, which is probably the way I would actually recommend using it if you're going to travel with this mouse. And truly, this would actually end up being a pretty good companion on trips, as well as it's a pretty light mouse. On my scale, I weighed it in at about 102 grams and found it to be just about my optimal weight for a mouse. Now, I haven't tried any of those super extremely light mice yet, so I could be proven wrong, but based on all the mice I've tested so far, I think around 100 grams is my personal sweet spot. As for dimensions, this mouse is a pretty average size gaming mouse. It comes in at 114 millimeters in length, 68 millimeters wide, and then you got 41 millimeters tall. And I think it'll fit in most people's hands pretty well, since there's really not any buttons that you're gonna have to go out and reach to press, like a sniper button. You should be okay even if you have a bit smaller of hands. The mouse also comes with 6 programmable buttons, although 2 are the standard left and right click buttons, so I doubt you'll ever be changing those or programming them. Other than that, you have your middle click mouse wheel button, the center button, and then you got 2 side buttons right above where your thumb will sit. By default, the center button is used to shift between DPI settings, and then the side buttons are going to be set to forward and back. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this mouse does have flaws, and I think the right and left click buttons are one of them. To be clear, I don't like absolutely hate them. They just aren't all that great for me. They are a little bit squishy, and it's probably more so the shell design than anything else. In fact, I'm almost certain it is because they use the same 50 mil Omron switches the Logitech G502 Lightspeed uses, and I absolutely love the feel of the buttons on that mouse. Keep in mind, these are also the same switches that reportedly start double clicking much earlier than they are rated for, and I personally haven't had any issues on my G502 Lightspeed or this Harpoon, but I did find it important enough to bring it to you guys' attention. As for the other buttons on this mouse, I think in general they feel pretty solid. I really like the feel of the side buttons, as they feel nearly as crisp as the G305, and although the center button is nothing special, I think it's plenty good enough for its purpose. The mouse wheel has a really nice tactile scroll, and the click is really nice as well. Aside from what looks like a pretty nice mouse so far, what's probably most important for a gaming mouse is going to be performance. The Harpoon RGB wireless packs the Pixar PMW3325 sensor and Corsair's 2.4 GHz slipstream wireless technology. Of course, keep in mind, if you are using this via Bluetooth, you do lose out on the slipstream technology. In any case though, performance is great across the board regardless of which connection you choose to use. I had no connectivity issues or noticeable lag while using Bluetooth or the slipstream 2.4 GHz USB dongle, and I was very happy with the performance in game with this mouse. As for battery life, according to Corsair, you should be getting about 30 hours with lighting on and 40 hours with lighting off if you use the 2.4 GHz USB dongle. If you decide to go with Bluetooth, you'll then be getting 40 hours with the lighting on or 60 hours with the lighting off. And after messing around with this mouse for a few weeks, I can confirm that these numbers are pretty accurate. Now, there is one very important note on this subject that you have to know about. You're gonna need to make sure you get the latest IQ software, so Corsair's IQ software, and update the firmware on both the mouse and the USB dongle. If you don't, you may have the same issues I had where for whatever reason my mouse didn't go to sleep once I stopped using it, and so every other morning the mouse was dead regardless of if I was using it or not. To be clear, I actually went ahead and I read reviews on Amazon and Best Buy to see if anybody had similar issues, and I didn't see anyone having the exact same issue and fix that I did. But I did see a few people here and there claiming they couldn't get over a week of battery life prior to each charge, even if they were barely using the mouse. And so they may have been experiencing what I was experiencing at first. Again, a firmware update did fix this for me. So once I updated the firmware on the mouse and the USB dongle, the issue went away. And that kind of leads me right into the IQ software, which is pretty much just like any other gaming peripheral software out there. It allows you to remap your mouse buttons, change the color and effects of the RGB, modify your DPI and set up different DPI profiles, modify your polling rate, check your battery life, and there's other stuff you can do as well. It's a program packed full of great features, and you will certainly be covered in basically almost anything that you want to do with your mouse. And to be honest, I'd like the software a lot more if it wasn't for a pretty major issue that I had with it. So basically, the issue stems from the fact that I could not find a way to save a profile onto the onboard memory of the mouse. Keep in mind, before you go in the comments below and start saying, Brian, it doesn't have onboard memory, that's why you can't save it to onboard memory. Well, I think it's supposed to, at least according to Corsair's website, because on their website it says that it does have onboard memory. In any case, the fact that you can't do this is important because if you close out of the program or the program crashes, it defaults to the standard profile you get when you buy the mouse, or at least it did for me. So customizations of the RGB or the buttons will not persist if the IQ program is closed, or if it crashes, or it has some error of some sort, which is actually what happened to me every single time my PC went to sleep. For whatever reason, there was always an error with the RGB settings, and it automatically reverted back to the default RGB settings, even though I didn't have any RGB settings set up in the program, if that makes any sense. So basically, I turned off all the RGB settings so that it would turn off the logo so I could have better battery life. And then whenever my computer went to sleep, it would turn back on and the logo would start lighting up again, which was a pain in the butt because the only way I could fix it would then be to close out of the iCUE software and then reopen the iCUE software, which I don't think you should have to do. Now, you can go into settings and turn brightness all the way down, which will then fix the issue, but then this also is going to turn off your DPI profile indicator, which can be used to color code different DPI settings. So if you say you want, 800 DPI to be set to blue, or 1600 DPI set to red, or whatever it might be, you can actually color code those. So if you turn that brightness all the way down, that goes away as well, which is definitely a trade-off. And this is where I reach out to you guys and ask, if you guys know a way to prevent this from happening or to save like the profile directly onto the mouse, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know. I will pin the comment or something else so that everybody else can know as well, because I know I wasn't the only one that was having issues trying to save a profile to the mouse and prevent this issue from happening. I can definitely see this being very frustrating for those of you who want to save the profiles on board and take the mouse to different computers without having to jump through unnecessary hoops to get your profiles working properly. And so my final thoughts on this mouse are as follows. This mouse is priced extremely competitive for what you get. And I don't think I can really say extremely enough times, because that's how strongly I feel about that. I absolutely love the feel of this mouse in my hand. I think it's one of the best designs I've used for a mouse, and it's super comfortable. And I think Corsair did a great job just kind of designing the layout and just how the mouse feels in general. Now, the software does have the issue I just mentioned, and it drives me absolutely nuts. And the buttons aren't the absolute best, but again, I think for the price, they are perfectly fine and acceptable. I mean, let's be honest here, guys. You can't expect everything for a $50 mouse, and what you get in this, again, is super competitive. It's super competitive. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more tech content just like this. If you want to see more of my mouse reviews, check out the playlist. I'll be putting it up right here or over here or somewhere around me. I don't know exactly where. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.